Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to this week's Tigers edition on Taylor's Detroit Sports Show on Blog Talk Radio. The number to call to voice your opinion or be a guest or a co-host. I apologize for that. Had to find out who the MVP of the NBA Finals is. The number to call to voice your opinion is 646-478-4837. Find me on Facebook, YouTube, Google, and Pinterest and Blogger as Taylor Phillips. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page, and join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group, to become a more educated and serious Detroit sports fan. And follow me on Twitter and Tumblr as DT2Phillips. No homers allowed. There's also a chat window on blogtalkradio.com on all my episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports Show for you to comment on with your opinions. Guidelines: if you have called in, stay on the line. If you hang up, redial the number and then stay on the line. The number again is 646-478-4837. Keep it clean, treat the show with respect. If you don't know much about the Tigers or any Detroit sports, you can still just listen. And only I can change topics because I'm the head host of the show. Start off with the weekend review. The Tigers open up what looked to be a 4-game series at U.S. Cellular Field against the Chicago White Sox. First one they lost 6-5. Rick Porcello started and looked like the old Rick Porcello, giving up 6 runs, 5 earned on 9 hits. Walked 1 and struck out 4. He gave up a Gordon Beckham RBI single after Adam Eaton hit a triple, which looked almost like an inside the park home run. When J.D. Martinez in left field went after it and misplayed it when it bounced down the line. 2 RBI singles by Connor Gillespie and a 2-run homer to the slugger by the slugger Jose Abreu, Bobby's younger relative. Miguel Cabrera, Eugenio Suarez, who's been red hot, and Victor Martinez all went deep. Martinez's homer scored 2 runs. In the 9th inning, Alex Avila hit an RBI double that could have carried out for a home run that would have tied the game at 6. Would have been a 2-run homer. Austin Jackson scored on it after hitting a double. They both hit back-to-back doubles. In other words, Eugenio Suarez flied out, obviously, and then Ian Kinsler, who had still been slumping terribly recently until this weekend, took a called third strike that looked a little too high. Now here's the deal: if that pitch was too close to take, and I think it was too, then Kinsler should have swung at it. But here's where I point out once again why the home plate umpires need to use a K-zone radar gun. There have been way too many judgment calls based on balls and strikes, and it's driving everyone crazy. Most or some umpires are old and almost half deaf, proving how they struggle to get calls right, which was why the concept of the challenge finally came into play. And I'm so tired of hearing this judgment calls are part of the game nonsense.
What's your problem there, pal? Can't I get a bit of sleep? Don't bug me.
People who say that garbage sound like true mules and have no care about the game. No care about the game whatsoever. Major League Baseball, its Players Association, the Board of Governors, and and all its umpires have to agree on inventing and using the K-Zone radar gun. Let me explain a lot to you. It's not invented as a smartphone app either. Nice try, Matt Derry of Detroit Sports 105.1. It's used the same way as a pitch speed radar gun, except the home plate umpire is held accountable for using it. All he has to do is just hold it behind the catcher, and when the pitch approaches, the result will come. Now hear me out on this one. The umpire does not have to check the K-Zone radar gun on each and every pitch, because otherwise the game itself will go much slower, like 4.5 to 5 hours. But when the hitters prove that they say that they concur, they should kindly ask the umpire to check the K-Zone radar gun and get this right. That's what keeps the game itself going about as quick as it's going every day here in the present time. But with that off-call third strike, Torrey Hunter, who pinch hit for a typical Don Kelly, grounded out to end the game. Sorry, no offense to the Don Kelly. His batting average is still high as far as I'm concerned. And no, the umpires don't hate the Tigers. I don't want to hear about that either. Seriously.
I want you here. What's your problem there, pal? Can't I get a bit of sleep? Don't talk to me.
Tuesday's game got rained out. Still no makeup date announced. Going to Wednesday's game, White Sox routed the Tigers 8-2. Justin Verlander took the hill and rolled through the first 5 innings and almost pitched a shutout through that span, but in the 6th inning, he crumbled by giving up the next 6 earned runs, and yes, all 7 that he gave up were earned. At first, I thought he was going to get out of that inning after a double play ground ball that still scored the go-ahead run in that inning, making it 2-1. But he gave up an RBI single off the bat of Alejandro De Aza and then walked the next batter, Adrian Nieto. And that brought out manager Brad Ausmus, who looked like he was going to make a pitching change and put in Ian Kroll. But Brad Ausmus, at that point when Ian Kroll was warming up in the Tigers bullpen, Brad Ausmus decided to leave Verlander in the game. Big mistake. Because from there, Verlander walked the batter after that, Adam Eaton, and then gave up a 2-run single hit by Gordon Beckham. That's when Ausmus finally pulled him and put Kroll in. Better late than never, right? Maybe right, wrong. But Ian Kroll served up a 2-run double by Connor Gillespie, intentionally walked Jose Abreu, and then got tacked by Adam Dunn with another RBI single. He got the hook and didn't get an out, and Al Albuquerque thankfully finished the inning by inducing a ground ball force out. This is where the Tigers fans and I get sick and tired of Verlander having single rough innings. They sometimes cost his team. I don't really know if he changed things up and hung pitches much in the 6th inning, but he could have just stayed his course considering the fact that he pitched well before the 6th inning. He attacked the strike zone, and he attacked the hitters throughout the first 5 games. I thought he could have just kept it going for the next 2 or 3 innings. He could have. Verlander has had single rough innings in most of his starts this season, and that's not how a true ace should pitch. He shouldn't have any rough innings at all, and it's been happening too many times and perhaps costing the Tigers games. On the bright side, Eugenio Suarez laid down a sacrifice bunt when Ausmus could have let him swing the bat because in the top of the lineup struggling, which gives the other team free outs, plus a walk and a run scored on a Rajai Davis in the 7th. Torrey Hunter drove the first Tigers run with a ground out. The bunt by Suarez was a mistake by Ausmus, considering the fact that Rajai Davis and Ian Kinsler were still struggling at the plate horribly at that point. Going to Thursday's game against the White Sox, the series finale, Max Scherzer was trying so hard to get out of his own funk, and he finally did so by throwing his first ever complete game shutout to lead the Tigers to a 4-0 victory. He only gave up 3 hits, walked 3, and struck out 8. He attacked the hitters and kept attacking them. He had plenty more swagger to prove to us that night. He got some run support from Victor Martinez, who lasered a home run down the left field line in the 5th inning, and a 2-run infield single by Miguel Cabrera that looked to be an RBI single and an error on the second baseman, Gordon Beckham. In the 8th, and a Brian Holiday double scoring Don Kelly in the 9th. The secret behind this complete game shutout by Scherzer is great managing by Brad Ausmus. Additionally, he finally considered letting a starting pitcher throw a complete game and finish the win for his team. That proves exactly why Brad Ausmus is not trying to be the Jim Leyland character that used to manage them in the past. No offense to the winningest manager in Major League Baseball history. Friday, Tigers came back home to Comerica Park and started a 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins. Twins got the shutout win 2-0. Drew Smyly was on his game again, but he got 0 run support. And that's been like the Tigers of old back in 2003. Smyly went 6 innings and gave up the Eduardo Escobar home run in the 3rd inning, batting from the right side, and a total of 4 hits. Walked 3 and struck out 2. I mean, he was pitching solid. I don't understand why the pitch count would mount that fast on him. He should have pitched at least another inning. The relief pitchers did their thing as well, except for Joe Nathan, who got himself into trouble again with the bases loaded and walked in 1 run, as Escobar also got that second RBI at that point. Brad Ausmus pulled him and put in a red-hot Phil Koch, who fanned Danny Santana to keep the damage at minimum. I want to point something out in the 5th inning here. Suppose you're Brad Ausmus, the manager here. You start out with Alex Avila hitting a single, and then you bunt with Andrew Romine, who was in the starting lineup and got a single off of that, and then you bunt again with Kinsler, who executed on a sacrifice here, and finally you have Austin Jackson draw a walk to load the bases with 1 out, setting the stage for Miguel Cabrera of all people, and he grounds out into a 5-4-3 double play. What the heck happened there? I mean, Cabrera is batting over 400 career with the bases loaded, and most of you are thinking afterwards he had a bad at bat. The rest of the offense is horrible, and bunting's always a great idea. The bunt worked perfectly. You know what I think of that?
What's your problem there, pal? Can't I get a bit of sleep? Don't fucking hang it.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you all something here. You're all way off the mark here. You're missing one important thing. Bunting doesn't score any runs. The only good thing it could ever do for you is move runners to one base. That's why it didn't work. It doesn't matter if you're Andrew Romine, Ian Kinsler, or Austin Jackson. As a batter, if you want to drive runs in yourself, swing the darn bat, for goodness sake. Saturday, it's yesterday, Tigers bounced back with a 12-9 win, which looked like a rout at first. Anibal Sanchez took the mound and pretty much did the same that Drew Smyly did, which was give up the game's first run in the early frames, and it looked like things were going to go down the same road they did the night before, until the Tigers scored a whopping 7 runs in the 3rd inning, which scored with an Eugenio Suarez home run, solo home run, and then an RBI double by Torrey Hunter and an RBI single by Miguel Cabrera, and a 2-run homer by Victor Martinez, an RBI double by Suarez, and it ended with an RBI infield single by Ian Kinsler when Twin third baseman Trevor Plouffe had to make a diving play but landed awkwardly on his rib and injured it and had to come out of the game. Plouffe is on the 15-day disabled list with inflammation on his left side. The Tigers would add 1 more next inning on a J.D. Martinez single, 2 more in the 5th on another RBI double by Kinsler and a sac fly by Hunter, another run on a single off the bat of Nick Castellanos, and another RBI single by Kinsler, who finished 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs, a walk and a run. Suarez finished a single shy of hitting for the cycle. 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs, a walk, and 3 runs scored. Very impressive for a rookie, period. No kidding. Sanchez finished 6 in the third innings when manager Brad Ausmus was getting Evan Reed to warm up in the bullpen way too late and put him in way too early right after Sanchez gave up an RBI triple to Eduardo Nunez, and from there things went way downhill. Think of this. Evan Reed was just pitching about 3 or 4 pitches in the bullpen, and he was not even nearly ready yet. That's a bad mistake made by manager Brad Ausmus. You can't just blame it on the bullpen. Evan Reed went on to throw a pass ball that looked like a wild pitch, scoring Nunez, and then surrender an RBI ground ball fielder's choice hit by Danny Santana. In between those, Torrey Hunter misplayed a bloop single that went all the way to the wall, and he only trotted back to the wall. Is that how you play or behave in the major leagues, Torrey Hunter? For the love of God, please, stop being such a stupid bum out there and play some gosh danged professional Major League Baseball. Phil Koch would finish the inning, but then take hits of his own. Minnesota would tack on 3 more runs on him with an Eric Fryer single and a Danny Santana 2-run single. Al Albuquerque came on only to load the bases with 2 outs and not get an out, obviously, but then on came today's hero, Ian Kroll, yesterday's hero, Ian Kroll, who with just 2 pitches got Joe Mauer to ground out to Cabrera at first to end the Minnesota 8th inning. More trouble with Brew as Brian Dozier took Kroll deep for a 2-run blast with 2 outs in the 9th inning on a 3-2 pitch. With over 10 pitches in that at bat. Just when Ian Kroll had that game wrapped up, which was when I thought Brad Ausmus should still keep Kroll on the mound to finish the game himself, which he finally did. Kroll managed to fan Fryer to seal it. I think the Tigers would have actually lost that game, then my scapegoat would primarily be the manager Brad Ausmus, because he made such a critical mistake mismanaging Evan Reed in that 7th inning, like I mentioned just a little earlier. And the result, Evan Reed just wasn't ready. He just wasn't ready. If you think Evan Reed is to blame, you're not even watching the game as clearly as I am. Brad Ausmus has to time the relief pitchers the right way at the right times. He better have learned his lesson right there. All in all, I think Ausmus overdid the bullpen like Jim Leyland sometimes used to do in his recent years before he stepped down as manager. But Ausmus made up for it by keeping Kroll in the 9th to get his first major league save. As scored on Major League Baseball on Major League Baseball's at-bat mobile app summary. See, Ausmus is still a rookie manager. You fans still have to consider giving him more time. He's still very intelligent and energetic, like I said earlier before the season started. And I don't know what's up with the relief pitchers coming out fresh out of the bullpen on this Tigers team and finishing each inning with 2 outs and then imploding in the next inning, but this has seriously got to stop somehow. What's actually behind that garbage? What's actually behind that garbage? Are the relief pitchers not staying warm and active in the dugout, or were they all worn out? Either way, they all had a rough game, but never gave up and still sealed the win for Anibal Sanchez, who got tons of run support, pitched well, and deserved to win, period. That's all that mattered in the game. Now today's game, the Tigers win 4-3 in walk-off fashion. Rick Porcello took his turn on the hill and threw 6 sharp ones out of 7. The one where he had trouble cost his team was in the 6th inning, cost his team the lead, and put them behind 3-2 after the Tigers scored first with a couple runs of their own. Rick induced a lot of ground ball outs as usual. The Tigers scored first on a Victor Martinez freak double in the 1st inning and a Nick Castellanos sac fly in the next inning. Minnie bounced back in the 6th inning with an RBI double off the bat of Josh Willingham, a Kendricks Morales RBI single, and another RBI single by Kurt Suzuki. The Tigers tied at 3 in the bottom of the 6th inning with an RBI double by Castellanos, who wound up with 2 RBIs. Jabba Chamberlain and Joe Nathan went back in action and both got themselves into jams, but also got out of jams and pitched scoreless innings each. to keep the game tied at 3 going into the bottom of the ninth. There, Torrey Hunter led off with a single, and then 2 batters later, Victor Martinez reached first base with a fly ball error on Arcia in right field, which allowed Hunter to reach third base. Then J.D. Martinez delivered a shallow sacrifice fly to center field, scoring a speedy Hunter to win the game walk-off style. The throw to home by Sam Fold was way off to the right, allowing the runner to score easily. Rick Porcello totally got bailed out after blowing a lead like he has many times in the middle frames as usual. Questions of the night. How more frustrated are you fans with the Tigers relief pitchers, especially Joe Nathan, until today? Are you ready to give up on this team so soon, or are you still hanging in there? How has Eugenio Suarez impressed you? Should he be signed to a contract extension? I want to hear from you on the phone right now. Call in at 646-478-4837. Going to my opinion counterpoints. After Joe Nathan walked in a run in the ninth inning in Friday's defeat, Brad Ausmus took the ball from him, and Nathan responded verbally with 2 words, F you. That's just another premature act by that man-child.
What's your problem there, pal? Can't a guy get a bit of sleep? Don't fuck me.
That's the 3rd straight week Nathan had said something somewhere out of context. This veteran pitcher, who used to be so great in his career, has now gone out of control. He's going to get fined sooner or later by either the team or the league, for continuously and constantly making such or any remarks to his manager, his fans, and his teammates. It's totally and completely disrespectful to the Detroit Tigers franchise. It doesn't matter if he's even telling the truth. If you think that Tigers are stuck with Nathan, you're wrong about that too. There's always the option for General Manager Dave Dombrowski to trade him between now and this year's trade deadline for fresher relief arms, and then maybe get a younger closer, which is what the Tigers really need. Joe Nathan is already near his 40s. He's in fact 39, and he's already growing old. It's time for the youth system to take over. The future is now. But you know something else? Today he got through the jam without giving up a run. As far as I can tell, he's starting to exercise his demons, and he has to keep hanging in there and stop overreacting. He's still trying to get more of it back. He's got some of it back, but he's got to get more of it back yet. Second of all, you can prematurely bash and troll the entire bullpen all season long if you want to, especially after yesterday. But over the past 2 or 3 weeks, or month or so, the bullpen, all in all, has been doing decently. If you continue to hate the entire bullpen anyway, then maybe you haven't even watched any or many of the team's recent games, or even looked at their statistics in each of the last few games or something. Or maybe you should all just quit on the team. If you look at what Phil Koch has done recently, he has done solidly at home despite Saturday's statistics. Also, despite all that, Al Albuquerque has come up big at times. So has Jabba Chamberlain, who got out of a jam of his own and pitched a scoreless 8th inning today, although he hasn't pitched much this past week. Ian Kroll has had his ups and downs, but he's young, and he got his first major league save yesterday despite giving up the homer to Dozier the same day. I mean, not everyone in the bullpen has stepped up, but quite a few already have, and hopefully all of them continue to at least try to improve or keep improving. They just have to get more of it back. My non-counterpoints, let's talk about something really positive here. Eugenio Suarez is a total and complete baseball machine. He's the future and now already the present of the Tigers franchise. He's the next Maglio Ordonez and a new improved Mags as well. He can simply hit, run, and produce. And he can also field just about the way Jose Iglesias used to field late in 2013. If you look at Suarez's total stats this season with the Tigers, he has vastly flourished and should be and remain the starting shortstop for the team this year, and have Andrew Romine back him up. The team already sent Danny Wirth back down to Toledo in order to make room for Suarez. I think Suarez is a future all-star shortstop and could perhaps lead the team to a 4th straight MLB postseason. I'm still not yet guaranteeing a World Series title yet, although I still have my own hopes up enough. But if they make the postseason, Eugenio Suarez will be ready for any challenge that's thrown at him. And then next season in 2015, when Jose Iglesias comes back from injury, I want both Suarez and Iglesias to rotate it short. They're both so very phenomenal in my opinion. Previewing the week ahead, the Tigers welcome the Kansas City Royals to Comerica Park for a very important 44-game series in a battle for the first place spot in the American League Central Division. The series includes a makeup game on Thursday. The first two games start at 7:08, and then the other two games both start at 1:08, including the makeup game on Thursday. Then they try and seek revenge at Progressive Field on the Cleveland Indians. Friday's contest begins at the routine time 7:05. Saturday's game will be televised on Fox Sports 1 at 7, and then Sunday's game it's just a routine game at 1:05 to end the string against AL Central foes. The Tigers are going to have to step it up a notch against the Kansas City Royals and against the Cleveland Indians. They have to pitch well, especially the bullpen, and keep their bats shining and smoking. Other MLB scores. Speaking of the Royals, they beat the Chicago White Sox today 6-3 to complete a 3-game sweep. Starting off with the American League, the Cleveland Indians nipped the Boston Red Sox same score as yesterday, 3-2, this time in 11 innings at Fenway Park. The Toronto Blue Jays prevailed over the Athletics 5-2 in Baltimore. The Tampa Bay Rays edged the Astros 4-3 in Houston. The Athletics held on to beat the New York Yankees 10-5 in Oakland after starting a rout. The Mariners fended off the Texas Rangers 5-1 in Seattle. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and the Atlanta Braves are still in progress in interleague play on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Right now, the Braves lead the Angels 7-3 in the top of the ninth inning. Just getting underway. The first pitch already in there for a strike. Speaking of which, going to the rest of the National League, the Miami Marlins walked off as winners over the Pittsburgh Pirates 3-2 in 10 innings. The Phillies were shut out in Philly by the Chicago Cubs 3-0. The Mets got a win in the Big Apple over the San Diego Padres 3-1. The St. Louis Cardinals held on to beat the Washington Nationals 5-2 inside Busch Stadium the second. The Cincinnati Reds dominated against the Brewers and won 13-4 in Milwaukee. And in the Bay Area, the Colorado Rockies came back with 4 runs in the 8th inning to beat the San Francisco Giants 8-7. Right now in the standings, the Tigers still lead the Royals by a game and a half in the AL Central. Detroit is 36-29, and the Kansas City is 36-32. The Indians are behind them at 3.5 games back and 35-35. The Twins are now dropped at 32-35 and 5 games back after losing the last two to the Tigers. And the White Sox also fall at 33-37 and 5.5 away after losing 4 straight overall to bring up the rear. All in all, it's neck and neck in the AL Central Division. To the AL East, the Jays are in the lead at 41-30, followed by the Baltimore Orioles and Yankees in a tie for second place at 35-33 and 4.5 games behind. The defending World Series champion Boston Red Sox are 9.5 games away at 4th place at 31-38, and the Rays are the caboose playing bad baseball at 27-43, already 13.5 back. In the AL West, the A's lead at 42-27, with the Angels 4 back at 37-30. The Mariners 7 behind at 35-34. The Rangers away at 34-35, and the Astros almost really struggling as usual at 32-39 and 11 games behind. Shifting to the National League, in the East, the Braves will lead by a game at 36-32 in a matter of moments. The Mets are 31-38 and 5.5 back. The Phillies are 29-38, 6.5 behind. In the NL Central, the Brewers still lead after their rout loss at 41-29, followed by the Cardinals at 37-32 and 3.5 games back. The Pirates at 34-35 and 6.5 behind. The victorious Reds at 33-35 and 7 back, and the victorious Cubs still 11 behind at 28-39. Finally, in the NL West, the Giants lead at 43-27, trailed by the Dodgers at 37-34 and 6.5 games behind. The Rockies 8.5 back at 34-35. The Padres at 29-40 and 13.5 back. And finally, the Diamondbacks at 30-42, worse than the majors and 14 behind. Other Detroit sports updates: former Lions Tony Scheffler already announced his retirement. The Lions side draft tight end Eric Ebron to a contract and released cornerback Chris Houston. The Red Wings have signed Czech Republic left winger Tomas Nosek to a 2-year entry-level contract, and the Pistons and New Orleans Pelicans have applied on a sign and trade for Greg Monroe. Also, Game 5 of the NBA Finals has ended with the San Antonio Spurs becoming the NBA champions after beating the Heat 104-87, and the Los Angeles Kings clinched the Stanley Cup with a 3-2 double overtime in Game 5.